All right, Patty, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How about, can you start off just telling us a little bit about who you are, where you live, what you do? So you and I had gotten connected through a personal friend of mine. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
So I live in Annapolis, near Annapolis, Maryland. Matter of fact, today Naval Academy is graduating.
Oh,
They're,
okay.
yeah, they're. So anyway, it's an exciting place to live. We're near the water, which has been
Hmm.
part of our family fun. I grew up in Philadelphia area,
Hmm.
and most of my family still lives there. I teach here, going forward to back. I teach at Anne Arundel Community College, which
Hmm.
I've been there about 15 years,
Yeah.
exercise science, women's health, whatever first aid, whatever comes up in our department that needs
Hmm.
coverage. I'm an adjunct professor. So it's, kind of, you're not really sure what you're going to get, but I love the diversity at school. I love that, I can talk about health and help
Yeah.
students. And so before that, I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 children. They're
Uh-huh.
all gone. They're all
Aw.
gone to other parts of the country. So we spend a lot of
Yeah.
time. I just went to the airport to drop my husband off. He's visiting the one that lives in Florida. And so that's what we do. We kind of travel to see them.
Yeah.
And they all are pretty much in some type of fitness field connection or hobby.
Okay. Hmm.
And they work in that, some of them. And, it's really fascinating to see their growth and what they've become
Hmm.
as adults. So I was stay-at-home mom. Before that, I had actually sold pharmaceuticals for Sharon Plow, which was the
Really?
medicine
Hmm.
for asthma, preventable inhalers, and
Okay.
that was a wonderful job. I really enjoyed that, but it was out of default. Before that, I worked in exercise science, exercise physiology as an exercise physiologist for Pritikin. There was a Pritikin program that believed low cholesterol was the way to go to avoid heart disease. But
Mm.
what they didn't study at the time was the fact that they were eating really high fiber nutrition plans. And they
Mhm.
would come and live there for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on the severity of their disease.
Mhm.
And they were always successful if they followed the plan. Compliance was the hard thing when they left. And
Mhm.
then I worked in cardiac rehab a little bit before that as an exercise physiologist and a hospital wellness program. And unfortunately, the field really just didn't pay a lot. So that's when I ended up in pharmaceuticals. So
Got
that's some
it.
my employment history.
Got it. And now you are an athlete as well, correct?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
Oh.
compete in Masters CrossFit. I do fairly well in the open. I do
Mhm.
fairly well in the age group qualifier. I
Mhm.
have been close to qualifying for the games when my biggest obstacle was the technology. So I missed a score submission and it dropped me to
Oh
right
no.
next level. But that, it happens. It
Yeah.
happens to a lot of high level athletes too. So it's something you have to learn and live with. And this year I'm 64, so I'll be in the 65 plus age group next year. Not
Mhm.
to say that that's any easier, but I'm really putting a lot of effort into it because you're strongest when you're at the bottom of your age group as a master's. So
Got it. Yes.
I'm going
Yes.
to give it my all this year and see what happens. So I'm training
That is
a little bit of
amazing.
training on the side, a little bit with gymnastics on the side, and a little bit of my regular capacity
Mhm.
training in the gym.
Yeah. And I'll just say for anyone who doesn't follow CrossFit, so like you're talking about the gate. So basically it's almost like you're competing, right? Almost could be, I don't know if you don't get paid. It's like almost like you're doing professional sports, right? It's
Well,
you're competing at an upper level of fitness. So like people who around the world do CrossFit, then they can compete in this open. And then basically, I'm just thinking for anybody who
yeah,
doesn't
no,
know
that's
CrossFit,
exactly
right?
it. Hmm.
Then based on your scores, it gets narrowed down, narrowed down, narrowed down. So she's pretty much in the like the playoffs, right? You're in the playoffs
I get that.
for
That
CrossFit.
I've not, yeah, I've not
Mhm.
ever like broken the mold. But I will say there's a lot of other competitions too during the year that you can
Mhm.
go to, and they've
Yeah.
tried to open it up more to the masters community, which starts at 35 years old.
I'm masters. Yeah.
There you go. So
Uh-huh.
um, They're amazing. They're amazing in their 30s and 40s. So as CrossFit evolved, now it's been around for a little while. Those people have the skills to move through the age groups. It gets harder and harder as they move
Oh
up.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow. So you and I were chatting before, something that this podcast is talking about burnout, and something that I see in my clients is that um, when women are coming to me for physical symptoms, their hormones or things like that, when we do testing, sometimes we find that they're very depleted, from like a hormone standpoint. And what, not all of my clients, but I will say that a lot of my clients, because they may be sort of competitive, maybe they were athletes, or they're just, I call them like high achieving women. They a lot of times I find that they're over exercising. I'm curious just into like what you teach with your students, where is that something you've been through yourself? And like, how would you guide somebody to kind of like maybe know when they're exercising too much, and yeah, navigating that? Because I'm sure at the level that you're competing at, rest and recovery is so important, not just pushing all the time.
Right. Rest, recovery, sleep patterns, all of it. There's so many things. And it's interesting that you mentioned it, because one of my friends who is a nurse, she just had her labs done today because she had a dramatic weight loss, which was
Mm,
unusual for her.
like
And
unexpected weight loss.
yeah, like she was
Mm,
working on cutting a little bit, but then things got a little, let's say, unusual,
mm,
overtired, and some of the things, just fog. And she's still an active nurse. She does a lot of, it's online, her work. She's a
mm-hmm,
nurse manager, and so she, knowing what she knows about the medical field, she decided to get some blood work done. And there's an issue with her thyroid. Her cholesterol's good because her weight's down. So the other thing is age just takes a toll on your body too. So
mm,
all those factors, my mindset, when I was 20 and 19, I played on the US water polo team, the first women's national team. And we
wow.
practiced 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the lunchtime time, and 3 hours at night. And we just constantly ate in between because we had to for
I was
calories.
gonna say I'm like, gosh, you had to eat to keep up with that. I mean, 9 hours of exercise a day. Yeah.
And so your mind goes back to that. And you like think, even though I'm on this end, when I have an empty nest now and I know my schedule very well. And so I can come and go. I don't have grandchildren yet. And I have this availability. So I can
Mm.
sort of do what I like to do, which is overtrain, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Swimming, and I like to vary things a lot, but in CrossFit, to qualify, you really have to focus on what they're going to test so that you can compete at that level. So I do swim anyway. I do go for runs, not really running hard, but like interval running, which is
Mm.
required, capacity for CrossFit competitions.
Yeah.
And what else do I do? Oh, you know, general stuff around the house. And that's another thing is activity. You have to factor in your activity level for the day. If you're at a sedentary job, that's one thing if you train. But if you're, working for Southwest and loading bags onto roller, you're physical all day. So if you're training and doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and then sleep patterns are going to change just dependent on, you know, your practices, like when you go to sleep, where you sleep, how you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I do wear I used to wear the Whoop band, but now I just have gone to the Garmin.
The
And
Garmin. Yeah. A lot of my clients wear a Garmin.
the Whoop would like tell me, no, don't work out. And I'd be like, oh, I'm just pretending I didn't see you today. Or and I just wouldn't look at it because it would be in the red.
Yeah.
I knew it's supposed to be in the red because I'm overdoing it. It's a competition. It's the
Yeah.
way it is. So you have to train for that a little bit. I
Mm.
talk to a lot of my friends, and we all have the same issues in this age category over 60, in that we get very stale on a day off. We feel very mentally guilty for taking a day off. So we
Mm.
definitely will be doing some type of active recovery.
Yeah.
We will definitely be out if, there's an
Like
opportunity.
moving your body, but maybe not to the extent you would be if it was a
Right.
training day,
Keeping
right?
your heart rate
Mm.
down, and yeah, and
Mm.
really feeling like you're going to give yourself some rest. Now, going into competitions, taking a couple days off is even hard for me to do, but it is the right thing to do. So
Yeah.
still active recovery, ride the bike light, row light, do housework or mow the grass or something, take the dogs for a
Mhm.
walk. It's always
Yeah.
kind of movement because we just feel really stale.
It's
And
hard for you to sit still, right? Mm.
yeah, it is.
Mm.
And I love coffee. I mean, that's one
I
of my
saw your sweatshirt there.
and
Yeah.
so I do have this little caffeine thing, and I also have a thyroid issue, which I've had for a long time, hypothyroidism. So I take Synthroid, a little bit of Synthroid, but that amongst all the other vitamins and food that I'm eating,
Mhm.
that is, I'm not a big supplement person. I also do acupuncture for recovery.
Mhm.
And that sometimes is once a week for a while if it needs to be, just to relax the body and go into some type of meditation. It's sort of permission to check out and really relax. And I've been to that practitioner for almost 22 years. I can't believe it when I thought back.
Wow.
So I've pretty much been getting some acupuncture, and then just awareness with a PT if you have some kind of a,
Joint
joint not
issue. Mhm.
well. I had Lyme's. I got through that holistically, and also with regular medical practice. Things I could take, saunas I could do. It took about 2 years, and I finally have started to get mobility back.
Mhm.
And there is a holistic doctor local that is very difficult to see, but you can follow their protocols. And if
Okay.
anything ever happens, like I, got the limes from the one tick, and then a couple years later, I got the Lone Star tick bite, which is the white dot tick that
Mm.
you're allergic to red meat. So I couldn't eat red meat or pork for about a year. And just
Uh-huh.
recently, I have been able to tolerate venison. So I'm happy
Mm.
about that and slowly working my way back because it's hard to. I watch my macros. I have a nutritionist that my daughter-in-law, who's wonderful, gives me a lot of
Yeah.
feedback. So I, am cognizant about all of that. But when I feel tired or I feel like I don't want to go to the gym, my attitude changes, or I
Yeah.
start becoming like, just those are some of my symptoms, and then I'll just either stay away or get 24 hours away, or I'll
Mhm.
plan an event that's totally different than CrossFit. Like I went to swimming nationals in Florida for fun, and it was
Mhm.
great. I got to move for 4 days, be in the sunshine, and basically work out because the races are all workouts,
Mhm.
and eat well. We focused on eating.
Mhm.
What else? So it was just nice to have a sort of a break from the usual fitness grind. But I do
Mhm.
love that fitness grind still. So it's kind of
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I love how you said earlier, you talked about when you go get acupuncture, you said permission to rest. I think that like I know for me that can be true too. It's like I have to go put myself in a scenario where I have to go get a massage. I have to go, it's almost like making yourself an appointment to go somewhere where there's nothing else you can do but rest. I think that many women can probably identify with that, especially if they are, like you can't just rest around the house, right? You'd get up and want to go do things if you were around the house, or
Right.
look at all these things I need to do. It's like almost like putting yourself in a scenario like that, yeah, where you can give yourself that permission to rest. That
And
I
then
love.
COVID, everybody was home. And it's
Yeah.
like, why are you sitting on the couch, Mom? Oh, I'm doing work. I'm doing my computer. Like my husband would come down from the office and be like, I'm working, I'm working. But,
Uh-huh.
in reality, I wanted a rest. I needed a rest, but I felt guilty taking it. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
self-care is super important to know that. And you have to send a message if you have a family and you have kids, you have to send that message to them too, especially your girls, because
Hmm.
they will see exactly you running the show
Yes.
and believe that there's no chance for them to take a rest, but there is.
Yes.
They need a little break.
I know my daughter has been a very large motivator for me to start my business, and then to go, okay, well, what message am I sending her by never resting, always working, always, like the way I live my life, what am I I can't say do as I say, not as I do, because she's gonna follow what I do,
How
right?
old
And
is she
so
now? How old is
she's a
she?
baby still. She's 10 months. And then my son is about 2.5. He'll be 3 in
It's,
January.
it's the exhausting time.
So yeah, it's a little tough. We're in the, but then I have friends, that have like preteens and teens, and they're like, it's tough, but in a whole new way than, when it's like tough no matter what season you're in, but just might not in
Change,
different ways.
right? When you're done with the car seats, you're like, wow, I feel so liberated. And then you're like, but I'm driving everywhere all night long for sports
Yeah.
practices and, whatever other activities they're in. And it is a
Shuffling
different.
everywhere.
Mhm. And
Uh,
then they get to be young adults and you watch them doing like, if you take one more part-time job, my one daughter, I'm like, if you say yes to one more coaching job, you're going to drive yourself into the ground. I said, you're doing exactly what I do and it's a mistake. Don't do it,
yeah.
You have to explore too, and they have to see how far they can
Mm.
go. And they're young, when everyone's young, they're so resilient
Oh
and
yeah.
able to do more. So
Oh
it's like
yeah.
you think if I can do more, I should do more.
Mm.
And then as you prioritize things, and then as your family grows, it's exhausting. Like your
Yeah.
second pregnancy versus your first pregnancy, you
Oh yeah.
didn't get to just put your feet up when you wanted to, right? On your
Exactly.
second
Yeah. No, I chased a toddler around when I
play.
was
Yeah.
9 months pregnant. Yeah. Uh-huh. I remember we went to a friend's wedding when my son was like, I can't remember how old he was. He wasn't eight, I wasn't due yet. So he's probably like 15 months or so. But I mean, I'm like maybe well into second, maybe in third trimester, and he's everywhere. And my husband's in the wedding. So he's a groomsman, so he can't help me. And I remember just like it was an outdoor wedding, which was nice too. So my son could just kind of like
That's
run
good.
around.
Yeah.
But I remember just being like, why did I even come? I could have just chased my kid around at home versus being at this wedding where I'm just chasing my kid around, here.
That's how we used to think of vacations. We're like, this really isn't a vacation.
Oh
It's we take
yeah.
a trip and then we have the kids with us. So let's
Yeah.
next time plan strategically to make it someplace
Yes.
where we can get away, or maybe we
Uh,
go for a day instead of 3 and we leave them home.
Yes, yes. And to speak to what you said earlier, I totally agree because so when I was in my 20s, I was a nurse in the hospital in the ICU and then into my 30s, some like early 30s. No. Oh God, I know I became an NP. Okay, so anyways, in my 20s, I was working as a nurse in the hospital and I remember like working night, I could like go out with friends and sleep 4 hours and go to work the next day and be fine. I'd feel tired versus now, yeah, motherhood is like a whole another ball game. I mean, I have remember not too long ago, I had a bad night with the kids were sick. And so they weren't sleeping through the night. And it was like, she was up and he was up and and I maybe had a couple hours of sleep, disjointed. And I mean, I felt ill, like so, like nauseous, dizzy, versus I would do that. I would be on call at night in the hospital then as a nurse practitioner, not sleep a couple hours and like go home and take a nap and I'd be fine, versus now I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God my husband worked from home today. So I would have
Oh,
been calling my mom, but
can you come
yeah.
over and watch the kids for a
Yes.
minute?
Can you help me?
Help us
I
in the
feel like I'm
car.
gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, oh, well, thank you so much for chatting today, Patty. So we should look for you coming up. I'm totally out of the game. So we're
So
past
right now,
open season, right? We're
yeah,
in regionals right now.
exactly. And
Okay.
they're running all the individuals and the teams right now,
Okay.
weekend, and they are sending qualifiers out now. The age groups do their own qualifiers, which it's
Mm.
unfortunate for CrossFit, but I think we've been telling them they have the open, it's virtual, video, everything. You need a judge, you need support. Then we have age group qualifier, which is the next
Mm.
level. Skills are a little harder. You need a judge. You need a weekend. I just go to my daughter at her gym and I'm like, they have other masters there doing it and the support's
Ah,
already set up. So we just help
okay.
each other. And the year before I went to my other daughter, I just go back and forth to wherever who's got a gym that would mind taking me to do this, right? And they're
Yeah.
so helpful. They're so good at teaching me and helping me. And then so after that, they only take 30 to the semifinals for age group,
Mhm.
which they take 10 to go to the games.
Mhm.
So they had the semis once again online over 3 days, 6 workouts or 5 workouts. I forget how many it was, but that's how they do the qualifiers for the age group. It's really difficult to do all
Mhm.
that and to get it
Yeah.
right. You got to get your videos right. You know, if one
Oh my
stops,
gosh.
you got to redo. I don't know, it's a mess. But anyway,
Well, so we should watch for you next year.
I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting with me today. This has been a great I love just getting to hear your wisdom and your knowledge and just, other women that are, yeah, like you said, like your daughter that are, maybe taking on too much of like that
Mm.
listening, I guess learning and listening and yeah.
Oh, well,
So,
good
well,
luck to you. You've got your hands full too.
thank you. Yes, yes. A little bit in motherhood right now. So
Mhm.
we'll get